Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
So by rolling up socially generated data, we will use AI and algorithms to match people, places, and homes, which will create greater quality of life, communities, and relationships across cities and eventually across the world.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. Today on Thrive Loud, I bring you the founder and CEO of Unite Living, Christian Wierød. And I'm trying to get that pronunciation correct. Did I do okay? Was it like a B minus?
You did pretty well. You can get over the Atlantic to Norway. No worries.
So as you mentioned, he's from Norway. Christian and I met a little over a year ago at a very cool event. Some of the cool things that I do is I get to work with amazing entrepreneurs for some unbelievable companies. And this one particular group, this program called Innovation Norway, where they bring some of the most unbelievable businesses actually over to the States. And I actually have an opportunity to work with great leaders to help them connect. And this was right at the start of Thrive Loud. I met Christian, was so impressed with what his business was about. He's got a great story and a journey on how he started the business, and he can't wait to share it with you. So, Christian, the way we're going to work this is I'm going to pass the ball to you. Tell us a little bit about your journey on how you came up with the idea for Unite Living, and we'll make it flow from there. That sound cool?
Challenge accepted.
I like it.
You know, if you give me $1, I can talk for hours, so just stop me. Unite Living, it started actually back, I was in Norway, in the army.
Okay.
In North Norway.
Got it.
And there is like dark the whole winter,
right.
So you don't even see the sun. So I was sick of the darkness. I was sick of the cold. I was sick of the Norwegian culture. I was sick of my friends. I was just fed up. So what do? You'll travel the world.
Okay.
So I started out as a travel guide for TUI, which is the largest travel agency in the world.
Yes, I do know that.
And the good thing there is we were 2,000 people who wanted to become a guide, but only 100 passed through. So they were like first the application, then they were like vetting you, and after that it was like phone interview, then it was IQ tests, it was personality tests, then you had a normal interview, then you had a group interview, and on top of that you need to go to Gran Canaria and had a guide school for 2 weeks. And if you passed all that, you were good to go.
Okay.
So that was in fact a manual matching algorithm.
Okay, interesting.
So I ended up with 99 like-minded people like me, as crazy, as much energy, and it was amazing. It was the best time of my life. I've always been this a little bit too much energetic guy, coming from a small town in Norway.
How small are we talking about here?
We're talking about less than 2,000 inhabitants.
So this is a teeny little town. Gotcha.
Teeny little town, where I was the energetic guy with too much energy and too many social antennas and all that kind of stuff. So I never really found my place in that little society. But for the first time in my life, I got with people like me, and I kind of found my place in the society, which was great, amazing.
Now, and where physically was this? Where was this travel agency where you were based?
I was based first in Thailand.
Okay.
And from there, I traveled to like Australia, China, Japan, Singapore, everywhere. And I lived in Turkey for 7 months.
Okay.
And the thing was, we lived all over the world in shared accommodations with other guides.
Gotcha.
And everywhere I went, it was a perfect match, and we had the time of our life with like-minded people. And that was something I wanted to give to everyone, to get kind of this journey of finding yourself by traveling the world, which we call back in Norway dannelsesreise.
I'm not going to repronounce that one. Your name was hard enough, Christian, but okay, yes, gotcha. We'll spell that out in the show notes, but anyway, keep going.
Right, and that's when you find yourself, and that's like back from the Vikings, they did that. They were like sending 16-year-old people out in the world to become adults.
Okay, gotcha.
You know? So I did the same, but after a year I quit for TUI, and I wanted to try traveling myself. Okay. But now I didn't have them fixing everything for me. So I had to fix everything on my own.
Right.
That's like finding a job. I was in Turkey. I wanted to become a ski instructor in Canada. So I just went to Wikipedia, found all the ski research in Canada, sent an email, and got 20 job interviews.
Okay.
Did it over Skype digitally. Signed the contract digitally. Found flight tickets digitally. Visas, work permits, everything on the web. Except finding a place to live.
Right.
It wasn't possible at all, and I checked out Craigslist, and it wasn't that trustworthy, and it looked like kind of a web page from the 90s.
That's true.
So I didn't really know what I'm going to. So it ended up just, you get on a flight, you go there, and you just have to figure it out somewhere, somehow. So I ended up in Calgary, and just had to jump on the first and what I thought was best opportunity to get accommodations with 5 people from Australia. First of all, back then had I a Norwegian dialect like this because I hadn't been, traveling that much. So I really was singing while talking.
You really have improved the way you speak, actually, if that's the way you were talking. So you sounded unique, and now you obviously are a very loquacious professional speaker.
Right, thank you. But on the other side, kind of the Australians as well, they had their own way of speaking English. Yep. So it took like 2 or 3 weeks before we even understood each other, you know? And it turned out that it wasn't a good match between our 6. So it became like a lot of drama. Some people just stayed downstairs and didn't talk to us upstairs. And the landlords was taking abuse of us. So we were paying twice as much in rent as all the locals.
Right.
And if things were broken, it never got fixed. And everything changed the day Mike I was living with. He was like standing in the living room, jumping up and down and just like, I hate this landlord. He's just taking the money out of our pockets. He never ever fixes the Wi-Fi when it's broken. And we don't even match. I don't like this.
So this was almost a bell that went off in your head. I like how you described this. Everything you were able to do remotely, you did digitally, except for the fact you couldn't find the right place to live and who to live with. So and then having this bad experience of living with people that didn't match up with you, all of this kind of came together and said, there's some gap here that needs to be filled, and there's a need to literally help bring together, or unite more appropriately, all of these pieces so that it becomes a lot easier for people to find a roommate or find accommodations to live together. Okay, now I'm going to ask through a question. I've heard some of the background. This is a technology business that you were looking to make digital. Did you have any technology background at all?
Not at all. I didn't even know what HTML was or CSS or anything. I just got so frustrated and thought that there were other people in the same situation, and I wanted to help. And I came from heaven with like-minded people with the matching algorithm, and kind of came to hell, if we were going to say it that way. Like the contrast as well, which just made me believe that this is what I'm going to do. I have no idea how. I'm just going to do it.
So, okay, this is a great conversation because the Thrive Loud listeners have lots of people who have a lot of great ideas, but they don't actually know how to figure out how to do it, or the gumption, or the cojones, so to speak, to be able to actually go start your own business. Okay, so how did you go about starting to build a technology, finding a team? You ended up leaving Canada and then going back to Norway? Is that where this all began?
Right, so I actually started in Canada, just being totally obsessed, writing a business plan in like 60 pages and Googling and finding out and just getting like my thoughts on paper. Not because a business plan is a good way nowadays, like 60 pages to an investor. You rather have like business model canvas and other like models to use. but it's more about structuring my own thoughts. And from there, I was 22 years old, no formal education. I have done a lot of like organizations and building stuff before, but I think I was young, kind of dumb, didn't know.
Naive would be a word we would use.
Right.
I wouldn't say dumb, but okay. Yes.
Yeah, it's me not having all the English words, you know. But yeah, let's say naive, and thought that this is going to be as easy as everything else I had accomplished in my life. So we just thought you need $160,000. You'll use half of it on a development firm in Poland, and you use the rest for marketing, and then you have taken the whole market in Norway.
Okay.
And
Did it work?
now we are $1.7 million later.
Wow. Okay.
And we just started our sales, and since January we have now $16,000 in recurring revenue.
So let's talk about what Unite Living is. Help us understand exactly what this platform does and who would go to it and the benefits of why I would go to it, because we understood the story of how you came up with it. What does it look like today as a tool for you to use?
So Unite Living is a multi-sided platform which is streamlining the user experience in the rental market from end to end for both tenants and landlords.
Okay.
So the value proposition for landlords is to maximize rent by renting out to multiple tenants, while minimizing the hassle of renting out to groups of tenants. Because no landlord really wants to rent out to roommates,
right?
Because it's a nightmare.
Yep.
But we'll make it easy for the landlord. On the other side, for the tenant, it's cheaper to rent with multiple tenants and roommates than renting alone. And by matching them based on personality traits and interests, we also make sure that they live with like-minded people who make their lives better.
So let's talk about that, because that's actually probably the most important thing. If anyone's ever had a roommate in their life, whether it was a good friend that somebody introduced you to or just the circumstance of finding someone to live with, as you showed the dichotomy of the great experiences you had in the travel world and then go to Canada and the bad experiences, what are some of the types of things that you ask about in this profile to help match all these people together?
Right. So I was actually studying psychology for half a year. So we used a lot of inspiration from the big 5 personality traits. In the beginning, we made like a huge kind of schedule or something you had to like fill out. It was like 3 pages, and we saw like all users were just dropping out because they're used to getting everything with a one click nowadays. So we changed it, one click Facebook login. We take some basic information from Facebook and give you an initial match. And then we'll build it up like LinkedIn. So when you get in there, you have a 20% filled out profile. And the more you fill out your profile, the better matches you get.
Okay. For those that are using it, and you did it in Europe initially, is this something that the market was looking for?
It was looking for it, but people called me crazy for at least 1.5 years, because my ambition is that people are going to move across borderlines without open viewings. So I had to prove it by, of course, using it myself. So me and my roommates, we were 3. We were looking for one more. We got a great match called Live. She lived in Grenoble in France. So we had actually the open viewing over FaceTime. So we had a 1-hour interview, and then I showed her like, here's the kitchen, here's your room, here's the living room, all over FaceTime. She just like, this is great. She signed the contract up front and paid 2 months of rent without even seeing the apartment in real life. And that was like the first time I thought proof of concept.
Okay. Now, have you, obviously, look, nothing is ever perfect. And obviously, you're never going to have a 100% guarantee with it. But you're definitely finding ways to not only improve the likelihood that you have good roommates, but also the ease at which people can actually get together and find the places to live. What have been some of the challenges as a leader of this company and as the product has developed that you've run into from a perspective of some of the feedback you've gotten from the users is, hey, can you make this better?
So for our perspective, it has been kind of friction, because I went out in the world and saw that it was a huge friction in the market. And then I were convincing a lot of people back in Norway that it's as difficult to move from Turkey to Canada as it is from Oslo to Bergen, 2 places in Norway. But we figured out that it wasn't like that, because the Norwegian kind of culture is quite different. It's very like friend culture, and you rather listen to a friend of your friend's recommendation than using a site like this. So we couldn't monetize on it the right way. So we started out with just matching people who want to live together based on personality traits and interests, which then is a single-sided platform with direct network effects, which means the more tenants in the network, the higher value.
Right.
But they were leaving us, and the better job we were doing with matching them, they're not going to come back before 3 years and so on. So kind of the struggles has been to like figuring out a way to monetize this, but also the 2-sided market platform. When we started making a listing module, we like chicken and egg problem,
right?
And which side should you get on the first? And also we have now 13,000 tenants in Norway.
Oh wow! Okay,
which is a very high number to be Norway. But also when you get too high quantity, how do you get the quality of the matches and the algorithms behind it? That has been a lot of challenge. When it comes to like user friendliness, we have actually tested the service on elderly dysfunctional people together with the Norwegian Research Council to like make it really user friendly and people who almost not see and so on. Because if they can use it, everyone can use it.
That's actually an interesting point, because I do know that from a millennial perspective and in the shared economy of a lot of things, this concept fits very nicely in the ability for people to, be open to who they want to live with, people being a little bit less in the less stable component part of their life where they're traveling, they're moving around, they're looking for stuff. We're doing this interview on the other side of the Atlantic here in New York, where not too far from Canada, where you started all of this. And now this idea is picked up in Europe. You've grown, as you mentioned, to having revenue, which is exciting. And it's getting to that point where now you're looking for other things. Why are you here in New York?
Because I'm at the correct side of the Atlantic. And
finally, you figured that out, Christian.
Finally, I figured that out. And I love this city. The energy, just how people work 24/7. It's kind of back in guide life where we also were working 24/7. And of course, the friction. It's so much more friction in the market here by finding a roommate than back home in Norway.
Right.
In Norway, there's only 17% of the population renting, while in New York City, it's 64%. And you have like different trends. People are getting married at later
stages of life,
of life, and they can afford to live alone here because the rent prices were crazy after a recession, and it's perfect timing as well based on a macroeconomic kind of view of the whole rental market, at least in New York.
What are you most excited for? You come to the right side of the States. This is definitely a concept that is going to get much more visibility and exposure, and has a great business. It's got a great website. We'll plug all these locations later. What's your vision for where you want Unite living? If you had what you and I worked on a long time ago, the BHAG, the big hairy goal that you're looking for the business.
So the big hairy goal is to map the residential rental genome. So by rolling up socially generated data, we will use AI and algorithms to match people, places and homes, which will create greater quality of life, communities and relationships across cities and eventually across the world.
I love that, by the way. That's solid, on the money, and direct. Look how far you've come. So this is actually really cool, because it's funny. 10 years ago, even 15 years ago, the first time I'd heard the term of online dating, of matching people together, I'd be like, does it work, whatever. And we all know, by the way, that there has been a tremendous amount of success in people who look for significant others in that. And this is actually an easier find, actually, although one would say it's harder to live with people than to love people. However, you're putting together that need here because of that friction, and I think that's a great idea to help the unique way that you're matching stuff, and the unique business proposition, because there's such a tremendous amount of people that are looking to come together. So not only just New York, but all the cities here in the U.S. or globally. And I love that BHAG that you have. This is exciting stuff. You've started this company from an idea and a frustrated roommate. You've been working on the entrepreneurial spirit. By the way, I'm standing next to him. He's a very good-looking gentleman. It's really, he's a good-looking Norwegian guy who sounds much more polished and global at this point instead of that sing-song voice we discussed. However, what I'll tell you about Christian is every leader has their ups and downs. What I love to ask all the guests on this show is, when you have trouble thriving, who do you turn to get back on the thriving track?
Right. So first of all, I have some really good mentors back home, serial entrepreneurs, people who have been to war actually and been in the army, and people I can trust with kind of every issue on the planet. But there was one time last summer where when I woke up, I was totally destroyed. I didn't have any energy or anything. So I went out running. Then I was a little bit better. And after that, to be able to go to work, I had to put a pencil between my teeth to force myself to smile for 5 minutes to kind of change the way the brain is working. So you're tricking the brain. If you're smiling, your brain's going to have endorphins and all that getting out, so you feel better. You can't do that for a long time. So after a week, I figure out if I'm going to do that anymore with just tricking my brain, this is going to hurt at some time. So what I do, I put everything in a backpack. I leave my phone back home and I go out in the woods for a whole weekend, and I just walk and walk and walk, and it's not before the last day, halfway on that trip, where things loosen up.
So it's a good way. Use the outdoors to do it. I love that. It's funny. I know people that run. I know people that they work out, they meditate, but a lot of people, they need to connect to something, and I think that's powerful. I think that's a good way to do it. And look, we all look for something, look into ourselves, or just get to that moment. It's pretty great stuff here. Okay, so let's ask all the fun questions. Let's take care of this admin stuff. Tell everyone on the Thrive Loud community where they can learn more about you and Unite Living, all the places and plugs that they can go to so they can learn more about you and reach out to what you're looking for.
So you can check out Unite Living on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and also go to uniteliving.com, or you can send me an email to Christian with CH at uniteliving.com.
Excellent. By the way, it's really cool design and one of the better logos you'll ever come across. We'll take Christian's good-looking mug and put it on social media here with the show notes and everything. So, Christian, by the way, this is exciting because I love reconnecting with anyone from this whole global program that I've been involved with. I love tapping into people all over the world, and there's an energy that you have that's really great, and I think this is such a great passion that you're living, which you should be very proud of. So, Christian, the favorite question we love to ask here on Thrive Loud: what is your all-time favorite movie?
My all-time favorite movie is Whiplash.
Whiplash, I love that flick. Why is Whiplash your favorite movie?
It's great because it shows that it's all about persistence and determination, and that you are able to do whatever you want in this world by just working hard and executing on it. And that's why we have managed to build this company without having higher education or kind of being a serial entrepreneur, because we have always have this thrive to execute.
I love it. It's a great story, man. And it's a great movie with great actors and everything. And you're probably the first person, by the way, to mention this movie, and I've seen it recently. There's Academy Award winners in it, and that scenes over and over again about persistence is a great message. Christian, this has been great. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for letting me.
It's been my pleasure. I get to bring the oceans together here. Get you on this side, the right side of the pond, as we like to say. And to all the Thrive Loud listeners out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.